Hi, everybody. I'm Dave.
I'm Courtney.
All right, we are the Counseling Geeks. We made a video last week and put it out there, and we did get a pretty good response from people. We had said that we were going to be making some videos to talk about mental health, and right now we had decided to concentrate on mental health and the COVID-19 pandemic, and we did get a lot of comments, and what we put them together and found that there was a common theme of regarding the questions that we got over the last week, and that common theme was everybody is scared. There's a general anxiety that people are experiencing, and the question surrounded, what do we do when we have this anxiety, when we're scared? And so we're going to answer that. I'm going to say a little piece, and Courtney will say a little piece, and hopefully that helps. And we will continue doing these recordings as long as you keep sending us your questions and your concerns. So regarding the anxiety, one of the things that in counseling in general, when somebody is experiencing anxiety, whether it be, usually it's from an individual who is having anxiety from different things in their life, or maybe there's some biological means or biological issues that are causing the anxiety, or I go on and on about where anxiety comes from. But right now there is a group anxiety that we're experiencing because we're all having to deal with this pandemic and all of the consequences that come with it, like social distancing and quarantining and all that sort of thing. So when I address someone in individual counseling about anxiety, we, of course, get down to, what are the things, the specific things that they're experiencing that cause the anxiety, and then we start to get in. I use cognitive behavioral therapy a lot when it comes to anxiety, and so what that entails is that there is a certain set of dynamics that are happening to us with anxiety. And so we sit down and say, okay, what is going on? Right now we know there's a pandemic going on. And of course, it's not just the pandemic, but all the things that are happening from the pandemic, like no toilet paper, or people being very afraid and panicking to the point of being rude, or maybe you've lost your job, or maybe you have a cabin fever, and you're tired of spending the time with your family or whomever it is that you're spending with. So we look at that, and what we tend to do is look at what is it that you're thinking about these situations. Yeah, we recognize all of the emotions that we have. Those are usually the first things that we recognize, the first thing that we pay attention to. But we usually have a hard time paying attention to what it is that we're thinking about these situations that turn into the emotions that we're experiencing. And so we would sit down and think about, okay, what is happening here? What am I thinking about this? Am I having some what we would call rational thoughts, or are we having irrational thoughts about those things? And how do we determine whether those are rational or whether they're not? And and then we look at how that, when we think those things, we feel, in this case, anxiety. And when we feel anxiety, what is it making us do? And and that's important, because everything that we do, the behavior that we have in response to what we're feeling, ends up reinforcing all of the thoughts that we originally had, and it becomes this loop that we can't quite get out of. And so, in the time of this video, we're not going to be able to, really get into what everybody is thinking. But when you're on your own, when you're by yourself, pay attention to what it is that you're thinking about these things and dig deep into them, and really just dive into it, and ask yourself questions like, what's the big deal about this? Or why did I make a rule about this? Or similar questions, and that helps you to dig a little deeper and really recognize what those thoughts are. And of course, just recognizing those things isn't going to solve the problem. Once we realize that we're having some thoughts that are really negatively affecting the way that we feel, then we have to start to challenge those. And so basically, in some way, you can look at, well, is there anything that I could think differently about this? Is there any proof or any evidence that what I'm thinking is true? And there are a ton of other questions that you can ask yourself in order to do that. And then recognize that if you think something different, you might be able to feel something different, and then that takes practice in really making sure that you keep those more rational thoughts going. Courtney, did you want to say more?
Yeah, so basically what Dave is saying is really, paying attention to our thoughts and really recognizing what we can and can't control. The other thing, the other side to this, in talking to clients and doing the poll, is that there's a lot of people that want to do something, and that's completely okay, to feel, a little bit, to feel better, to feel that you have some power. Absolutely. The flip side of that, is kind of is sitting with it, and just allowing yourself to feel that anxiety. So Dave, we do certainly practice both that CBT component. I do take more of like a mindfulness approach a lot of times, because in these kinds of situations, I think sometimes what happens is people just become really reactive. And I think that's what we've been seeing at grocery stores, or just interactions with people, that we're coming from a place of fear, and people are reacting from that fear. And what the opposite is being said, as far as like, we should definitely sit and take a look at our thoughts. But we should also take a look and really understand like what's happening in our body and what's going on, and allowing ourselves to just sit with something that might be super uncomfortable to deal with. The most well-functioning, the most normal, I don't want to use the word normal, but the most healthy functioning adult is being impacted by this. So, some people have found really great positive ways to manage, but when we're talking about having a mental health issue on top of a pandemic, this becomes even, these feelings become more magnified. And so I think, again, you can kind of take two approaches to this: to really take a look at your thoughts, to change your feelings and ultimately behaviors, or you do nothing and you sit with it and you just allow yourself to feel those things and work through it. And that is the more uncomfortable, the more, the approach that most people don't necessarily want to take, they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with doing. But sometimes not doing anything is doing something, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? You're doing
Absolutely.
something by just sitting with it. So
Right. And actually, what I talked about with the CBT and what Courtney talked about with mindfulness, you can use them together. They go together very well. When you're recognizing that you're thinking that, wow, I'm in a really bad situation.
yeah,
Then you say, okay, I'm in a really bad situation, and that's the way that it is. And be able to go with it, and really put those two things together.
absolutely.
So,
And so, oh, sorry, Dave. I
no,
was thinking, we want to definitely, everybody's had, maybe some people have had many similar experiences. Other people have had maybe some pretty significant experiences, or might have been really directly impacted by the coronavirus. And we really want to hear from you to continue kind of like this discussion. This video could take, we could go forever and talk about this.
Yeah.
You know, but we really wanted to just start the conversation, and certainly there'll be, you know, other videos coming down the pike as far as talking about this, but just starting this conversation and, you know, understanding like we're here with you, we get it, we understand it, we're going through it with you. And here's a couple of approaches of how you deal with it.
Right. And the approaches that Courtney and I just talked about, they are not the only approaches. They are just really common ones that we use every day in our practice. So, you know, hopefully with these videos, we'll be able to do, you know, some more interventions that we use and that you can use anyways, and maybe dig a little deeper into what everybody's experience is and what can help. So, but we thank you. Hopefully this was helpful and informative, and please keep sending those comments and those questions, and we will answer them as they come in.
Sounds good. Thank you,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.